Hello, this is a model that we're going to be covering on our program together, but I thought I'd do a little bit of an introduction for you to get you thinking about it. It's quite a well-known model. It's called Comfort Stretch, sometimes called Comfort Stretch Panic. And it was designed by a guy called Carl Ronca, who's an American, and he used it specifically in sports. But we're going to, on the program, we're going to use it in working in one-to-ones with people, working with your team, even applying it using your, with your organization. But today, what I thought we'd do is just look at it in terms of ourselves. So just to get started, what I'd like you to think about is just think about some of the incidents that have happened to you in work over the past few days. And these might be meetings, it might be going out, going out on site, working with your customers, doing training, any situation really. And what I'd like you to do is just to, as you remember those situations, just consider whereabouts you were. Because according to this model, we can be in one of three places. So the first place is when we are in comfort. And this is when, in that work situation, everything is going fine, everything is easy, it's running really well. It's almost like we could do it with our eyes shut. We are just running at that level of comfort. We feel totally comfortable, totally at ease. And there can be great advantages in this, particularly if they are things that we need to do on a regular basis. Those things maybe which are habitual. But the downside of it is it can, if we're not careful, lead to complacency. It can lead to stagnation, where there is no change, where there's growth. Because for there to be growth, we need to be in the next part, the blue part, which is stretch. And this is where we are working in the situation, but suddenly there's a new challenge. Maybe something's changed in the environment. Maybe somebody has behaved in a way that you weren't quite sure. Maybe there's some new legislation. But in some way, you've been almost kicked out of comfort and into stretch. And this is a situation where you really need to pay attention to what's going on. But it can be, as well as challenging, it can be really exciting, because this is where we are really stretching ourselves, where we're moving into new areas. So, for example, if you want to be promoted, then it's probable that you would need to get into stretch, so you could start to stretch yourself into a new role. And you'll find yourself in stretch if you move to a different team or a different organization. What we don't want to do, though, is to stay in stretch all of the time, because if we do that, we're going to be using up too much energy. So it's really nice sometimes just to be able to fall back into comfort so that we can go back into stretch at another time when we've actually got more energy, when we've regrouped ourselves. The problem with too much stretch, so if the situation is too different, we get into areas where we're going beyond our skill set, where we're going into places that are really uncomfortable, then one of four things can happen. We can move into stress, we can move into chaos as we lose control of what's going on. We can have those feelings of panic, which again will stop us from operating, from working well, or disorder at a larger level, where things start to fall apart. So if we're in that area of stress, chaos, panic, disorder, this is not a good place to be. This feels really uncomfortable. My guess is that lots of us, and I include myself here, lots of us have been in that situation over the past year or so. So the pandemic has taken us beyond stretch and into those areas where we feel as though we've lost control. And so when we're in those times, what we want to do is we want to go back into stretch and maybe back into comfort, so that we can regroup, we can get our energy back, we can reorganize ourselves so we feel a bit more comfortable. And it's interesting that very often people's response to that would be comfort eating, or comfort drinking. It's not an accident that we use those words. So what I'd like to do is just to think about those situations you were considering before and just notice, were you in comfort? Were you in stretch? Or had you sometimes flipped into stress, chaos, panic, disorder, where you've lost control? And it's quite likely that you may be in all three of those different areas at different times of the day when you're doing different tasks or when you're with different people. So what we'd like you to do between now and when we start the course is just to start to notice some of those times when you're not quite as comfortable as you might be, and just notice, are you in stretch or are you in that outer area of panic? And what we'll do on the program is, as we start to identify those times, we'll start to work out what can we do about those? How can we mitigate the stress, chaos, panic, and disorder? How can we sometimes kick ourselves out of comfort? And what we'll also do, and you might again start to notice this between now and when we start the program, is we'll also start to show you how you can use this with other people. And I'm sure once you start to really consider this model, you'll start to realize that not everybody considers every situation to be the same. So for example, something that you consider to be comfort, other members of your team might consider that to be a stretch. They might even think it's stress. And so it's not just about understanding our own positions within this model, but also whereabouts are other people and how can we help people to move predominantly as a manager, as a line manager, as a leader. Predominantly, we want to be moving our people into that area of stretch. So a really nice, simple model, but it has lots of connotations. It's called Comfort, Stretch, Panic, and it's a guy called Carl Ronka. So looking forward to meeting you in June, July, where we will explore this further.